Today, Spelljammer came out for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we have to talk about it because some things are broken. Welcome to D&D Builds, where we usually make all sorts of ridiculous characters, and I'm going to be using some of these broken things in future builds, but only when I have to make a really overpowered character. So they introduced some races that are interesting. We have a flying monkey, a hippo person, an auto gnome, which is kind of like a mechanical gnome person. And we even have this unique form of elf that is essentially like playing a Spock. But the thing that's broken are the backgrounds. So in D&D, the backgrounds are pretty much just about fleshing out the character. You usually get 2 skill proficiencies, and you either get 2 languages or 2 tool proficiencies, or 1 of each. Then they add some features that are usually about flavor and role-playing, like if you're a criminal, you might have a criminal contact that you can reach out to, and it's just about building the world and fleshing it out. They made a slight adjustment with the Strixhaven book, giving you some additional spells you can cast, but only if you already have the ability to cast spells. The major difference with this Spelljammer backgrounds is that they give you a feat. Almost no other backgrounds in Dungeons & Dragons just give you a flat out feat. This usually costs an ability score improvement, and that's a massive boost to any character that's going to use this. It is wildly unbalanced in my opinion, and it gives anybody using these backgrounds a massive advantage. I was talking to my Discord about it, and they mentioned, oh well, it's to adjust for maybe the enemies have higher damage output. And if that's true, then the rest of the backgrounds that you have available in D&D just aren't good enough to be in this setting, which is a bit of a problem. Or we have a background that's in this setting and it's overpowered, which is also a problem. So here's the issue. The background Astral Drifter gives you access to the Magic Initiate feat. The Magic Initiate feat gives you 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell. You can choose whatever spell list you want to take this from, and whatever particular ability that you use for spellcasting depends on what class the spell list comes from. So if you wanted your Magic Initiate to grab spells and cantrips from the Wizard spell list, you're going to have to use intelligence to cast those spells. The one restriction you have with this background is that you have to choose from the cleric spell list, which means that you have to use wisdom for your spell casting ability. And this is where it gets tricky. Wisdom is super useful in D&D. So if you want to be a rogue that's scouting stuff out, now you can just choose this background and you get some spell casting too. You already want to boost your wisdom to get better perception, so this is just using that in a different way. If you want to make sure those perception checks do a little better, you can cast guidance on yourself as the cantrip, and that just boosts it up by an extra 1d4. If you want to make sure your party's not dying, you can grab Spare the Dying. And if you want some extra massive damage output, you can also just grab Toll the Dead. It's one of the best damaging cantrips in the game, except for maybe Eldritch Blast when it gets boosted with Agonizing Blast. And also, if you're playing as that rogue and you want a little extra bonus, you can just as easily grab Guiding Bolt as the first level spell. It'll give you advantage on a future attack roll. This can also give somebody that has no reason to know how to heal some healing ability. All in all, this is just way more of a reach than it should be. And even if you happen to be playing as some sort of a tank, like you're a fighter and you happen to have a decent wisdom score, or even if you have no wisdom score at all, you can grab something from this spell list that doesn't actually rely on your ability score modifier. Like grabbing the spell Shield of Faith, it'll boost your AC by 2 points. I don't understand the reasoning for having such an overpowered background suddenly introduced into the game. And the other background they introduced was Wildspacer. This automatically gives the Tough feat, which is a massive boost to your hit points. So if you want to be the best tank in the game, then you're gonna want to grab this background. It's a bit overpowered, and this gives you an extra 2 hit points per level as you level up, which is absolutely insane. It takes away some of the need for Constitution. Outside of having a Constitution saving throw or having to concentrate on a spell, it just makes Constitution much more useless. Because having this as just a default in your background means that it's like having an extra 4 points in your Constitution just for the sake of health. This is very overpowered in a way that I already know how I'm going to use it in a future build. I'm going to build Superman with this, and it even fits with the fact that it's from outer space. This just feels like a very unbalanced way to make the game, and it's a little frustrating to me as somebody who constantly builds characters in D&D. I know it's setting specific, and I know that dungeon masters can totally make it so that it's not allowed in their campaigns. But really, to me, I think this is something that shouldn't have been introduced because it's just not balanced with every other background that's already in the game. Let me know your thoughts on the new stuff introduced in Spelljammer, especially if you have opinions about this background or the new races or even the new spells that were introduced. You can either let me know in the comments down below, or also down below you can check out the description where there's a link to our Discord where we were chatting about this already. Finally, if you like tons of ridiculous Dungeons & Dragons builds, feel free to check out any of my other videos. Most of them are about building ridiculous characters. And if you want character sheets for most of those, feel free to check out my Patreon, like these incredible people here. They help me make these videos, they try and vote on what I should build next, and all sorts of stuff. And a very special shout out to Kilo, Devin Happy, and Jason Willowhammer, who are my Dungeon Master level patrons. We're actually going to be getting a D&D session hosted by me very soon, which I'm going to be streaming both on YouTube and Twitch. But for now, whether or not you're going to be using these backgrounds or even doing any sort of Spelljammer themed campaign, I thank you for watching, and just for making it to the end. Let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session.